Today I'm speaking with Jimmy Golding in Utah. Jimmy will talk about the things that make their program unique, the fact that they are a government agency, and how they created a separate nonprofit to help fund their activities to meet the needs of their community. And one of the more interesting kitchens of any Meals on Wheels program that I've ever heard of. All that and more on today's episode of Behind the Meal.
Welcome to Behind the Meal. Join Dave Cowling as he dives into the stories behind Meals on Wheels, and we meet the incredible people and organizations that make it happen.
Today we are joined by Jimmy Golding, the Executive Director of Meals on Wheels for Summit, Utah, and Wasatch counties. With a career dedicated to community service and social impact, Jimmy oversees a vital operation that provides over 118,000 meals annually, acting as a critical lifeline for homebound seniors across his region. Thanks for joining us today, Jimmy.
Thank you, Dave. Happy to be here.
Well, it was good to meet you. It seems like forever ago, but at the MOA conference last year, and I'm looking forward to coming up here with Las Vegas and then see what they've got planned and kind of catch up with everybody again.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually been probably a handful of times, and it's been a wonderful conference every time. They do a great job.
I think it was my third one, so it was fun. It was good. Kind of just tell us a little bit about your program. What who you're serving, kind of get lay of the land there, and what it looks like.
Absolutely. So first, I just want to start off. Our organization was established in 1974. And we started out serving in Utah County and then grew into serving Summit and Wasatch counties. It's interesting because Utah County is our larger one of the three,
Mm-hmm.
and the Summit and Wasatch are rural. And so it's interesting because we serve kind of two different dynamics there. And I mean, outside of Salt Lake, we're probably the next largest county. Um, and so, anyways, it's interesting because we are way more dense in our population of seniors that we serve in Utah County. And being able to service, Wasatch and Summit, actually, there's a benefit for those two counties because Utah's bigger,
Mm-hmm.
and allows us a lot more resources and availability to serve more people in those two. So it's kind of nice that we have that option to be able to do all three counties. Um, it's interesting, we use for our kitchen um, the county jail
Oh,
in two different of the counties. They're the main kitchen that we use, so we contract with them. And the one in Utah County, it's been well over a decade that we have partnered with them. And why it's such a benefit is it allows us to keep our cost, price per meal, and as well as
mm-hmm.
staffing costs lower. We pay them for their professional staff, the chefs and all those
Sure.
individuals. But part of their program with Meals on Wheels is the inmates will come in and help. And they're overseen by the professionals, but it allows them to learn some skills. We give them a little stipend each day, so we're still paying them, but that's very different than paying a full-time staff.
Right.
Um, and uh, and they also have a garden that they grow there on site. And again, that's another opportunity for these inmates to go out and do something really productive while they're there. And when they leave, their sentence is up, then now they have some marketable skills and even a little bit of money, to their name when they get out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very mutually beneficial. We still have our own dietitian who oversees the menu, makes sure that it is within our requirements and types of meals that you and I would like to eat. Um,
So
and
they're
and
they're
so
they're
it's
not
just
making
working
the
out.
same food for the prisoners that they're sending to you too.
So what they make for us for lunch is actually what the inmates get for dinner.
Oh,
And so they'll make enough so that they can provide both. So it's kind of unique in that way too. But again, we kind of dictate what that meal is.
Hmm.
But it's worked out really, really wonderfully.
Okay. Do you now when they get out, do you have any contact with them after they're out too, or is it
No, no,
okay?
and we ourselves as a program, we don't actually connect with them at all.
Okay.
We coordinate directly with the jail and their, the deputies there. Um, and then, like I said, we actually do that in two different areas. So we do that in Wasatch
Hmm.
and in Utah County, and so that allows us to be able to provide meals in Wasatch and Summit. Um, from the county jail there too, and we're kind of mirroring the program in both locations. And I'm pretty sure that I haven't met anybody else who does that. Um,
No, that is not
I
one
know
I've heard.
people say all the time, when you've seen one Meals on Wheels, you've seen one Meals on Wheels.
Right.
You hear that
100%.
all the time. And I think that is so true. I mean, and especially in our case, this is something very unique to us.
Oh, that's well. So to get it straight, so you have one county that's providing meals to two counties, though. You're getting, is that right? You're getting,
Yeah,
okay.
we're kind of in the middle of transitioning,
Mhm.
figuring that out, to be honest with you. We also
Sure.
use one of our local senior centers um, to kind of help provide those meals too. That's actually something else that's kind of unique to us is we do not actually operate or own our senior centers. The individual cities do, and we just partner with them.
Yeah.
And I know there's others who do that too, but I know a lot of them own their own senior centers.
Hmm.
And anyways, we do not, and so we partner with the different cities to
Hmm.
to provide the meal service at their site.
So are you doing home delivered and congregate site meals then?
We do. We
Okay.
do. Yeah. So we I don't remember off the top of my head, but we have I think 14 senior centers that we do congregate meals at. And then, we do about 5 to 600 home delivered meals a day.
Okay.
And right now, we are in the situation where we actually have a waiting list. Um, a couple of years ago, we saw the influx coming of our seniors,
Yeah.
but the funding has stayed relatively level. And so we started in 2023 a nonprofit to fund our Meals on Wheels program.
Hmm.
And so that's helped quite a bit. We started out with about 550 seniors on our waiting list, and just the other day we dipped below 200, so we're going the right direction.
So explain that a little bit more. So I saw that online that you had started the nonprofit in 2000 and 23. So your organization itself, is it a government agency?
Oh, wonderful question. Yeah, so it is a government agency. The parent company is called MAG, MAG,
Hmm.
MAG. And that is where the Meals on Wheels program has been housed for, since 1974.
Okay.
And it's mostly worked through federal and state funding, and local funding here and there.
Hmm.
And it's been able to function that way, but especially when COVID hit, our demand went way up. And like I was saying earlier, the finances stayed relatively flat. And we're okay, we're starting to see this financial cliff coming. And to try and avoid it as best as possible, we thought, well, let's just start generating our own funding. And so that's why we brought the nonprofit into the picture
Okay.
and been able to start generating those funds ourselves.
So what's the relationship outside of just, obviously they're raising funds to go into
Yeah.
meals? Do they have their own staff? Are you overseeing both programs?
Yeah, yeah, I do actually. I oversee both. So
Okay.
I'm the executive director of the nonprofit, and then I am the director, within MAG over some of the different aging services, and one of those is Meals on Wheels.
Mm,
So I actually do oversee both sets of staff. And so they kind of run parallel to each other.
Sure. That makes
You know,
sense.
the nonprofit arm is just to raise funds for those meals to get those seniors off the waiting list.
Hmm.
And then, the MAG Meals on Wheels program provides those meals and houses our volunteers, much more of the operations side.
Okay, that makes sense. I was so interested to find out more about like how the relationship between like the government side of things, the nonprofit,
Yeah.
and you have seem to have a lot of. Maybe this isn't the best way to put it, but your fingers are in a lot of different spots with the county, your
Hmm.
with Mag, with and the nonprofit as well. But and you mentioned working with the cities too, because the senior centers themselves.
Yeah.
What's and a lot of Meals on Wheels programs, I'm sure, as you know, really struggle with kind of those government relations. A lot of times it's more about policy and things like that. But still, what you mentioned, a lot of your funding coming from the state, from the county, and it sounds like you maybe even have some relationships with the cities and
Hmm.
municipalities as well. Um,
Yeah.
what?
That's a really good point. Let me tell you a little about those, how those connect,
Yeah.
So, through MAG, our executive council is the mayors from the different cities within our
Hmm.
three counties. And so we already have a direct relationship with them. And so when it came to talking about Meals on Wheels, it was actually very smooth transition. Um, they are very, very supportive. They love our initiative, love what we're doing, support us in any way they can. We actually just completed an event that we call March for Meals.
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of other Meals on Wheels who participate, but what that looks like is the elected officials in March will go out and deliver meals to their specific cities, that they're the mayor of, and get to sit down with these people and get to know them and hear their stories and really build that connection. And so then when we start talking about, policy and funding and things like that, those conversations are actually very easy, because
Yeah.
they're already bought into this, they love what we're doing. And and so that ties well together. And speaking of funding, so recently we just finished the state legislation,
Hmm.
and we had one of the senators here propose a bill that supported Meals on Wheels programs in Utah that raised, private donations. The state would do a match,
Oh,
um, again, to support the work that we're doing. So it's been even quite positive on the state level, which is wonderful,
that's
right? I mean, we're
incredible.
getting
Yeah.
support on all sorts of different sides here. And then, of course, we haven't even talked yet about corporations and individual
Yeah.
giving.
It's getting there, but yeah.
We are. I mean, and all of it just ties together. And I mean, the support that we are receiving has been fantastic.
So when you mentioned the legislation for a state mat, is that something that passed and went through, or is that something in the works
It
still?
did. Yeah,
Okay.
no, it did. It got passed, and we're obviously that was just barely completed, so we're still in the
Hmm.
process of figuring out what that looks like. But
Yeah.
all in all, the intent there is to benefit those who are going out and trying to generate those funds.
Wow. And I have one question on that. How would you define, or how does the state define maybe a Meals on Wheels program? Like who gets those dollars? Is it anybody serving meals to seniors?
Yeah, so in Utah, how it's set up is the AAA, the Area Agency on
Hmm.
Aging, is who houses the Meals on Wheels programs,
Sure. That makes sense.
all of them.
Hmm.
And so we are already tied to, those federal and state oversight and dollars. And so the only ones that are actually able to, have access to those funds are, you know, those AAAs, the Meals on Wheels housed
Programs that are
within.
participating in Title III
Right,
and those
right.
kinds of and those
Yeah,
programs that are the
exactly.
things that are coming through the AAA.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now you gave me something to think about for our legislative session next year,
You know,
and hopefully other people,
it starts with a conversation, right?
for sure.
And finding those champions, the senator who was supporting us, Senator Stratton, when we sat down and had that initial, conversations with him, about what we, are trying to accomplish, he was all on board and he just kind of ran with it.
Hmm.
So, which
Oh,
was
those are the
wonderful.
best. Those are the best friends to have.
Yeah.
Well, what? Tell me a little bit about like your staff structure, your volunteer structure. What is that? What's the day? What's it look like there every day as meals are going out?
Yeah, so we have, our program manager, and then we just have, two other full-time staff, and then kind of a handful of part-time staff who do our assessments, and answer the phone calls, kind of do some of the more office type of jobs. And then we have what we call parent routes. We have 8 of those, and that's where they go to the kitchen, pick up the meals in the morning, and then they're in our big trucks, with the hot box and the refrigerator.
You have
And
like the
they
combo
actually,
trucks with both.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. And they will actually go from the kitchen to all sorts of community sites. So we have local banks, the senior centers, grocery stores, um, drug stores,
Hmm.
where they will go and drop the meals off to those locations where they have a cooler and a hot bag, and the volunteers will go pick up from there. And so, why that's so nice is then the volunteers are picking up close to where they're delivering,
Hmm.
and they don't have to go all the way to our kitchen. Um, and so our staff is actually quite low, compared to others. In the office, like I said, we have about 8, and then drivers, we have 5, permanent drivers, and then we use volunteers. And then the actual delivery of the meals,
Hmm.
we have about 400 to 450 volunteers.
Oh,
Ebbs and flows a little bit,
yeah.
but they're the ones who are actually delivering the majority. I mean, well over 70% of the meals to
That
the
the
seat.
last mile is really those
Yeah,
volunteers.
yeah, exactly. And and that's worked out really well for us. Our community is very, very supportive, and recruiting volunteers is obviously ongoing,
Sure.
but we always get new volunteers. We're a little unique that we have 2 universities in our service area,
Well,
and so we get quite a few students, but even older adults themselves
yeah.
love to volunteer. And so they will actually come and volunteer, and we get some stay-at-home, parents who decide that they want to volunteer, and they'll bring their kids and go out and deliver. And so we get a lot of community support in our area. Um, and so one of our full-time staff is actually the volunteer, coordinator
Hmm.
that's their full-time job is
I
just to
imagine.
keep those going.
Oh,
Um,
that's
but
been.
it really has been wonderful, and it's made it so that we can actually grow, into serving as many people as we are. I mean, this is the biggest we've ever been, is right now, delivering more meals than we ever have.
Mm.
And obviously there's still some more needs, so we're working our way to making sure everybody gets that meal.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there seems to be always a wait list, or people waiting at the very least, that are out there. It's fascinated by the drop off sites, that are just like you said, they're
Mhm.
drugstores or whatever it might be in the
Yeah.
community. It's how many of it? Well, let's go into a little bit. I mean, your area is kind of, I don't want to necessarily say urban, but you've got maybe more rural areas than others in your space where you're
Yeah.
delivering to. What does that? I mean, how big are some of your routes when they have to, or go
Yeah.
out to these spaces?
Yeah, no. So the volunteer routes, we do anywhere from about 6 meals to maximum 12. And the intent is that the volunteers can deliver within, an hour, on their specific day. So we assign somebody a day. So let's just say Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have between 11 and 1 to go out and deliver their route. And so they have the 2 hours, but really we plan them so that they take about an hour. And part of that just depends on proximity, right? So if they are more condensed and close to each other, they'll kind of be those bigger routes, that they can get to
Sure.
more people within the hour. But like you were saying, you get to more of those rural areas, they're going to be a lot more like six, 7 meals, so that again they can stick within that hour. We want them to be able to, spend a couple minutes and
Mm-hmm.
say hi for a second. You know, we we did a survey not too long ago, and 60% of our meal recipients report that their volunteer that they see, that's the only person that they have visit in a day. And I mean, that's huge amounts of numbers, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we want them to be able to have that connection and build that rapport with each other. And, it's nice, because they start to see each other every week and they build that relationship. And a lot of our volunteers, they stick around. I
Yeah.
mean, I think our oldest, current volunteer is going on 19 years.
Wow.
So I mean, that's just a long time.
That's a
And
long time to volunteer anywhere.
yeah, but it's because they love it,
Yeah.
and it's obviously hard when somebody passes away or
Mm-hmm.
we have to redo routes for whatever reason. But the intent really is to keep these routes small enough that they can still be personal. And so I don't I'm pretty sure we have 53 volunteer routes that go every day right now.
Mm.
And that's a lot of routes. That's 53
Sure.
people going every day.
Yeah.
But it's because we're keeping them, small enough that they can have that relationship.
Well, and if you have the volunteer capacity to do it, there's no reason not to. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the best thing, Ideally, you got one volunteer per one client would be great, but
Yeah, right. Maybe someday.
right, right. No, well, we'll get there. We'll see. Now, I know how long have you been in your position?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been, obviously we just started the nonprofit. So the executive director, it's been, just a little over 2 years now. Um, but at MAG, I've worked there for almost a decade,
Okay.
and I actually started out as the volunteer coordinator.
Mm.
And then I transitioned, a couple of roles, and now I'm up to the director of the program. But um, it's been wonderful. I never actually thought that this is the landing place for my career, but I love it. I mean, these people are just amazing. The people I work with are amazing. The people we
Mhm.
serve are just the most wonderful people. I love when I get to actually sit down and just talk to some of these clients and hear their stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a whole life full of experience to just share. And of course, they want to, right? They just
Hmm.
want to tell you
Yep.
all about it, and I just think that there's something really wonderful about, obviously providing them that meal, but also that social connection,
Hmm.
and being able to just let them know and see that they are important and that they matter, and ultimately that's why we're all here, right? That's why we do
Yeah,
Meals on Wheels,
for sure.
but I just think that both of those reasons are so vital. That social connection is almost just as important as that nutritious meal.
Well, it's what, we all say, it's more than a meal for these
Right.
folks. And, and for us, it's more than a paycheck, I guess you could say
Right.
too. But you've been, so you were there through the COVID years as well. And I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
so many programs, I won't say changed during COVID, but we learned things. And especially, I think from the folks we were serving, we really got to see uh, people that probably should have been getting meals beforehand that all of a sudden that little extra neat push with COVID
Right.
kind of brought them on board. And like you said, you're serving more now than you ever were.
Yeah.
And I imagine some of those came on aboard in 2020, 2021, and have stayed there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, COVID really was a turning point. And, we, with all of a sudden, the advice, to these older adults, hey, stay at home, we want to make sure that you're safe because you're the
Hmm.
vulnerable population,
Of course, it's half our
you know.
volunteers too, but
Right, right. Well, and that's such a good point, because all of a sudden we had people calling and saying, hey, I'm not going out to do stuff anymore, but I still want to be useful. Can I
yeah.
help, And
Hmm.
absolutely, we would love to have you, and so it was to your point, Dave. I mean, there was a lot of growth during COVID, and it slowed down maybe a teeny bit as, COVID kind of fell off a little
Hmm.
bit, but not a lot. I mean, it's still kind of been full steam ahead, and it's
It,
interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
no, I was just say you kind of hear that from a lot of the programs. It's very similar that things kind of really picked up. You saw a little bit of a drop, and then but not much.
Yeah.
And we're still serving those folks. And of course, a lot of those COVID dollars have stopped coming in. But
Yeah.
no, that was, but you probably timed it well with the nonprofit coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really interesting. We were being strategic, trying to plan for the future, and
Hmm.
we saw that funding cliff. Those COVID dollars were so helpful, so good. But like you said, they were going to end,
Yeah, at least we
And
knew they were end. Sometimes those
right.
when they don't when they end without you knowing it's coming, it can be hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the nonprofit absolutely helped, with that. I mean, like I said, we had to start a waiting list. We actually didn't have a waiting list before the
Hmm.
pandemic. So that was actually new to our area. But I really do think that probably within the next year we will be back down to no waiting list and as stable as we can be right now
Yeah,
and like it's trending the right way.
yeah. Are you serving any specialty meals like culturally specific or different special diets, medically tailored, anything like that as well?
Yeah, yeah, we do. So right now we're actually working on adding in some different cultural type meals.
Hmm.
For a really long time, it's kind of been the meat and potatoes, type of meals. But we really are starting to throw in other things, starting to do some burritos, and maybe some barbecue, things like that, trying to mix it up a little bit. Um, and then as far as the specialty meals, so this is another really big benefit of working with the county jail is
Sure.
they are mandated to provide specialty meals to any inmate that has, that need.
Hmm.
And so they have a really wide variety of meals that they can offer. And so we do too because of that. And so I mean we do diabetic, we do gluten free, all of the ones that you
Any
talked
condition
about.
somebody may have, you've got it covered.
Pretty much. I unless there's something that's really, really challenging, we can pretty much meet that need. I mean, we do puree, we do mechanical
Hmm.
soft, all of those different types.
And your meals for congregate and home delivered are coming from the same spaces, from the same place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We
Okay.
have a couple of senior centers that elected to do their own meals,
Mhm.
and so our contract with them is a little different where, we help kind of pay for part of that production of creating the meal.
Mhm.
But almost all are at the county jails.
Okay. And what you mentioned this working with the city and the state, obviously in the counties. What are some of those you mentioned just a little bit? Some of the other partnerships, maybe the corporate. You mentioned the university, things like that. So, what do those relationships look like for your area?
Yeah, great question. So let me start with the universities. We have Brigham Young University and Utah Valley University are the two that are right here
Hmm.
in our area. And, obviously we use them a lot for volunteers and interns, but we also will use them for social media and research. So we're
Yeah.
we're currently talking with a professor about doing research on the effects of our Meals on Wheels program with these clients. What are the positive effects that we see, and are there negative effects, and just kind of
Hmm.
getting a really good scope on the impact, and that's possible because the university's here,
Yeah.
and we also, like I mentioned, social media. We had their mascots come out and deliver meals just a few weeks ago,
Oh, fun.
which is just really fun, right? Because then they get to, knock, and a lot of these clients, are sports fans, or, and,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, uh, they're standing right in front of my door, bringing me my lunch. And so that's just really fun. And then on both of those, they actually have really big social media following. And so then it
I bet.
also gets our message out there to more people, you know, trying to get more clients, but also letting people know they can donate and help
Hmm.
support the program. So it's just the messaging is wonderful, and the support from the universities is really positive. We work with the different schools within the university to go to presentations and let them know about internships and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so just really, really great connections there. And then on the corporate side, so we are trying to again build those partnerships, and let these different corporations know how they can support our program and our cause, and these seniors that are in their, area
Hmm.
that they do their work in. And a lot of them are really positive too, because this is one of those programs that the messaging and the support is just really positive, and everybody has a connection to it. And so they love being a part of that. With March for Meals this past month, um, we got sponsorships, and local matches from these corporations where, if somebody donates, they'll match the donation, or if somebody comes and eats at their establishment, a portion of that will go to Meals on Wheels. So we're still gaining traction with that, but we're starting to see some really positive outcomes from building those relationships.
What are some of the larger, you kind of touched a bit on some of these things, but what are some of the big challenges that you're seeing now for yourself and for the program? Obviously, wait lists is always a challenge,
Yeah.
but
I mean, number one, right? I mean, wait list and funding, right?
yeah.
I mean, making sure that we're able to provide, for all those who need it, and have the
Hmm.
funding to be able to do so. But I think one of the more recent challenges with, all of the fundraising that we're getting is actually the growth. Making sure that our foundation is, built in a way that we can actually sustain that growth
Yeah.
and on into the future. And so I actually sat down with our team, a few months ago, and said, okay, what do we need to adjust and alter here to make sure that we are ready for the future, that we can handle this influx of seniors, and make sure that, we can add even more and not have to try and do this whole overhaul and adjust. And that
Hmm.
was really good. What that kind of looked like was adding more parent routes, that go to the kitchen and drop them off at volunteer routes, and addition of new volunteer routes themselves. But that also means that you need more volunteers, and
Right.
you need to make sure the timing matches, and so we really had to kind of pause for a minute and kind of recalibrate. Okay, are we ready for this influx? And we adjusted a little bit, but that was kind of a more recent thing that we've had to fix. Another one is actually we needed a new database,
Hmm.
and that is so super critical,
Yeah.
because that's how we get the information out to the different drivers. That's how the kitchen knows how many meals to make.
Hmm.
Tracking all that client data. I mean, super super important. And so we did a pretty deep dive on the different databases that are available, and kind of which one is going to match us the best. And we launch our new database the
Oh,
beginning of next week.
I didn't know it's paying us here. Who did you end up with?
Yeah, so Meal Force is what
Okay.
it's called. So it's a part of, oh my gosh, what do they call the oh my
Ah,
gosh.
that's all right.
I
I
can't
wouldn't know
remember, but
anyway.
anyways,
Yeah.
the program is called Meal Force, and
Okay.
it's really wonderful.
Is it
I
part of
they've
Salesforce? Is
That's
it?
what it is.
Yep. I
That's
know
what it
exactly
is.
what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen
Um,
them.
they've been great to work with.
Okay.
Making it really customized to us. Like we've been talking about. Every Meals on Wheels is unique, so it's going to look a little different. And anyways, they've done a great job. So we're excited to launch that.
Well, I was wondering, as a government agency, sometimes databases, prior to this, I don't know if you're, if it was something internal or how that was working, but, sometimes government programs can be a little behind. So,
Yeah. Uh, 2 databases ago was an internal database
okay,
that we had to transition from, but yeah,
good.
no, no, we're sitting happy now. We're very grateful for where we are.
Well, go with that. It's a good transition. And, what is your future looking like? What are some of the things you're hoping to achieve in 5 years, 10 years, maybe, whatever? I don't know
Yeah.
if any of us are looking that far out right now, but
Yeah.
may-
Maybe 5.
maybe five, maybe two.
A lot of our goals right now are centered around, making sure we have the capacity, right, to bring on
Yeah.
everybody who we need to, but then being secure in our funding.
Hmm.
So we started this nonprofit to get rid of the wait list, but that's not really the end goal, right? The end goal is to, start doing endowments or other things where we can start to make sure we are financially secure in
Hmm.
case another pandemic happens or whatever,
Anything.
that might challenge our ability to provide these meals.
Hmm.
And so really that's a lot of the focus right now is okay, next year hopefully we get rid of this wait list. Now let's start to build that funding base so that we don't have to, you know, chase our tail a little bit, make sure that we're secure. Um, and then obviously outreach, right? We want
Hmm.
to make sure that anybody who has a need is aware of our program and then we can fulfill that need.
That's great.
Well, that's a lot
Well,
of the future
yeah.
growth.
No, I think it's, it's there's so much of the future is unknown,
Yeah.
and it all costs money. So
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
as much as some people don't think it does, but it will. There's funding that is needed for every meal and gas, and it all seems to be going up lately.
Yes, it does. Yes,
But
it does. Well, and kind of what you were actually touching on, Dave, is
mhm,
that we just want to make sure that this service doesn't go away.
yeah,
That these people have that safety net of getting the nutrition and what's our job in that is, to make sure it's there, make sure it's
yeah.
available. So that's what we're
Well,
doing.
well, if other people want to make sure it's there and available and want to reach out to you, what's some of the best ways folks can do that?
Yeah, so I mean the best way honestly is our website. So mowsuw.org. So Meals on Wheels Summit Utah Wasatch. We just took the first letter of each of those,
And that was available. No,
And yep, it was. Um, so that honestly is the best, and of course they can always Google us and they'll find us. Meals on Wheels Summit Utah and Wasatch. Um, and it's interesting, as we've been really bolstering our nonprofit, our social media has also followed.
Mhm.
And so our social media is Meals on Wheels Utah. And they can find us, Facebook, Instagram,
Okay,
those different platforms.
great. Well, it's been great. I can't wait to catch up with you again and see you in Las Vegas in a few months, hopefully. And then, I'd love to come back and see where things are at and another time in the future as well. So
Absolutely. Dave, I cannot thank you
thank you.
enough. This has been wonderful talking with you,
Thank you.
and thanks for doing this podcast. I think this is such a wonderful thing.
Well, I appreciate it. It's it's my excuse to talk to everybody and figure out what they're doing. I can steal ideas from. So
Right. Collaborate together.
that's right. Well, all right. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Dave. Bye.
All right. I want to thank Jimmy again for his time and for sharing his program and his experience with us today. I met Jimmy at the last Meals on Wheels America conference, and it seemed like we just kept showing up at all the same places during our time there. The folks in Utah are really lucky to have someone so dedicated to the program and to his community. If you have any Meals on Wheels programs you'd like to hear on Behind the Meal, please just drop me a message. And as always, please subscribe and share the podcast. And until next time, thank you for your work you do and for the communities you serve.